This is Valley News Live at 5.
We begin with breaking news. Authorities in Fargo are now saying a 3-alarm fire at the former Mid-America Steel building was intentionally set. It happened Monday night, and crews were still on the scene until noon yesterday investigating. The Fargo Fire Department will continue to work with the Fargo Police Department to figure out who's responsible. One person is on the run in connection to a shooting that injured a 6-year-old in West Fargo, but police won't say if they know who the other suspects are or if they're considered armed and dangerous. At this point, 2 suspects have been identified. 19-year-old C.J. Carruthers was charged today with 3 counts of reckless endangerment, conspiracy to commit robbery, and firing a gun within city limits. A 17-year-old boy was also arrested after the shooting. West Fargo police are still looking for this car, its driver, and any passengers at the time of the shooting. We reached out to West Fargo police several hours ago for more information and haven't heard back. To the forecast, it's a quiet afternoon, and that's not a bad thing. Hutch tells us what's in store for tonight. Hutch.
Stacy, thanks so much. It rained late last night into the morning hours and snowed for some out to the east. Here's how much fell in the bucket. At Sisseton, nearly 3/10 of an inch. This was last night. 7/10 in Fergus Falls, and central and eastern Becker County seeing some more substantial moisture. That's about it. The rest of us remaining dry. After midnight, we added just a few hundredths more in the amounts of precipitation. This is what it looked like thanks to Rick Julian out there at the Lake Ida Apple Farm. A little coating of white, 3/10 of an inch as measured by Rick. Radar quieting down for us, not the case out in eastern Minnesota. Near 50 in Fargo. It is 54 in Sisseton. The rest of us generally are in the 40s minus Langdon. A little cooler there. Tonight we will dip into the 30s just shortly after sunset. The wind does decrease a little bit in both Fargo and Grand Forks. We do have some warmer weather to talk about. In fact, it's almost exciting. I'm giddy over here. I can't wait to share the 7-day planner with you, and we'll do just that and talk about the rest of the weekend ahead here in a minute.
We can't wait to hear it. Thanks, Hutch.
You bet.
The DEA says seizures of fentanyl and heroin in North Dakota have increased by 223% from 2019 to 2020. Just 2 milligrams of fentanyl, or the equivalent of a few grains of salt, is considered a lethal dose. Counterfeit pills can be difficult to distinguish from legitimate medications and are often marketed as M30s, Perk 30s, Blues, or Mexican Oxy. The DEA stresses the surest way to know that your medication is legitimate is to have it prescribed by a doctor or picked up at a pharmacy. Marijuana was the #1 drug seized in North Dakota in 2020, with meth ranking second. Fargo police want to alert the community to a high-risk sex offender now living in the area. 38-year-old Patrick Moore is currently living at 352 21st Street North. He's 6 feet tall, 240 pounds, with brown eyes and brown hair. He was convicted in April 2016 on 2 counts of gross sexual imposition. Police say Moore was 31 years old when he had sex with a 14-year-old girl. We're learning more about the suspect in the deadly shooting rampage in a Colorado supermarket that left 10 people dead, while the community is joining together, grieving for those who were lost. Jay Gray is in Boulder with the latest.
Mourners continue to be drawn to this growing wall of flowers and messages remembering those lost.
It's shocking, and I don't know how else to wrap my head around it besides coming back to see the damage done and pay my respects to the people who lost their lives for absolutely no reason.
A veteran police officer who rushed in as the shots rang out, and 9 others just going through their daily routines, all murdered. Ricky Olds, a manager at the grocery store, remembered as the light of her family.
There's a hole in our family that won't be filled. I mean, we try to fill it with memories. You know, but it's tough. It's tough.
The overwhelming grief in this community framed by frustration.
We are sad, but we are outraged. You know, we are crying, but we're angry.
Much of that anger focused on the man police say carried out the killing spree, 21-year-old Ahmad Lacy. Several law enforcement officials telling NBC News the suspect appears to have a history of mental health issues, which may have been a significant factor in the shooting. He pleaded guilty to an assault charge in 2018. A police report indicates he beat up a fellow student after they called him racial names weeks earlier. as investigators continue their search for evidence and answers. There is one question that lingers for so many here.
I don't know where you really can feel safe anymore. If you can't go to the grocery store, where can you go?
A candlelit vigil is scheduled for tonight in Boulder. The suspect's first court appearance is set for tomorrow morning. The Senate is beginning work on a sweeping nationwide voting rights bill, and the sharp partisan differences were on display today. A Rules Committee hearing drew both Senate party leaders to make opening statements on the bill, a highly unusual move. This after the House passed a bill that seeks to knock down voter barriers, including mandating automatic voter registration, same-day voter registration, and minimum early voting periods.
Instead of doing what you should be doing when you lose an election in a democracy, attempting to win over those voters in the next election, Republicans instead are trying to disenfranchise those voters. Shame on them.
Democrats have an uphill climb to pass the bill in a 50-50 Senate. They'd need 60 votes to overcome a likely filibuster, and even then, some Democrats haven't committed to voting for the law. As more COVID vaccines get into arms, many of us are anxious to return to our previous lives. Experts say people should stay vigilant so they can return to work and school safely. Today, the Biden administration announced their $130 billion plan to get children back to class. NBC's Dan Scheneman has details.
There is mounting pressure to get America's kids back into the classroom. Officials concern the emotional toll it's taking on youth is just as important as what is in a textbook.
We're going to put in strategies to help address some of the learning loss, but that social emotional connection that our students needed.
Getting schools open for in-person instruction safely and as quickly as possible is a top priority for CDC.
3/4 of public schools are now open for full-time or hybrid learning. The Biden administration wants that number at 100%.
Teaching virtually just isn't the same.
As part of the administration's National Safe School Reopening Summit, Education Secretary Miguel Cardona announced $130 billion will be made available to support a safe return to school.
With that, we can safely reopen our schools, and we have to act wisely and with urgency to get it done.
The summit highlighted educators from around the country and how they are making in-person learning work.
PPE was a big role in our building prep.
What concerns me is the footage of what's happening in spring breakers.
The push to return to normal comes at a time when federal health officials have warned of a possible fourth surge of the virus as troubling new variants spread.
Do get vaccinated when the vaccine is available to you.
Vaccinations, masks, and social distancing for the foreseeable future to ensure the future is something we can all enjoy. Dan Scheneman, NBC News.
As of today, the CDC says it has delivered more than 169 million doses of the COVID vaccine. Sanford Health continues to receive large allocations of vaccines. This week, close to 6,100 doses will arrive at the Gordman's Vaccination Center. A majority of this vaccine is Pfizer. Close to 1,000 vaccines were administered yesterday alone. Essentia Health is now letting anyone schedule a vaccine appointment as long as you meet your state's criteria. All you have to do is sign up for MyChart on essentiahealth.org. From there, you can choose the date and time to get your shot. You can also get in touch with Essentia at the number on your screen. Clay County public health officials are showing concerns about being behind on vaccinations after North Dakota Department of Health made an announcement about starting general population vaccinations on Monday. The health department handed out nearly 1,200 shots last week, along with just under 1,000 this week. They're currently vaccinating healthcare workers, people with certain medical conditions, and certain essential workers. They say they don't know when they'll be moving on to that next phase.
The challenge will be, as we see across the river, you probably saw in the news they now have eliminated their mask mandate. And also that they are moving into the general population next week. So they're, quite a bit ahead of us in regards to the phases.
There's also not a timeline for when Clay County will receive the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. To stay on top of the latest COVID vaccine-related information, use our VNL vaccine tracker. It's right on the homepage of our website, or you can open your phone camera and point it at the QR code on your screen, then tap the link that pops up. The West Fargo City Commission is now extending the city's Love Your Local gift card program. You have until Friday, April 30th to spend the funds on the gift card you received. On that date, unused funds on those cards will no longer be available. West Fargo has announced the dates for its Cleanup Week. The annual event lets you clear out your junk and leave it on the curb. It'll take place from May 3rd to May 7th. The city asks that you place your items on the curb by 4 p.m. the day before your garbage collection. Hazardous waste and yard waste will still need to be taken to the city's disposal sites. During the pandemic, many of us have been working from home, sitting in front of a screen for hours, and this can build up stress in your body. Zen in 10 focuses on stretching and breathing for 10 minutes a day to decrease physical and emotional stress. The workout is comprised of yoga and relaxation techniques led by music. More than 700 songs on a playlist from the 60s and 70s determine the pace of each workout. The idea is to give you more energy and decrease stress.
As a society, we unfortunately have become more sedentary and are sitting a lot more. And so having that extra stress on those joints and shortening them, right, can really increase the probability of some sort of injury. And so having those stretches can help alleviate some of that sedentariness, but that extra stress that you might be putting on those muscles as well.
Zen in 10 is a 10-minute workout twice a week starting at 10 a.m. To sign up, head to valleynewslive.com where we provide a link. There is no cost to join. The Bison are hitting the road this weekend to take on the University of South Dakota, and you can catch all the action right here on KVLY. The pregame show starts at noon on Saturday. Kickoff is at 1. Coming up, there's a new way for you to get your hands on a Tesla. See how in just a few minutes.
Wet weather overnight became white for some as we headed out east. Today, improving conditions, and tonight looks to be fairly quiet. Your temperature's not too warm, but there's some mighty warm weather to talk about in your 7-day planner. We'll do just that coming up. Join me. Weather's next.